So as it says in the title, what's missing? Exactly. I have got a 1953 Longines 14 karat solid gold dress watch. This one I was told was not running, and it's true, it's not. The question is why, and when I found out why, I was a little bit surprised how the person that owned this didn't know this, and more to the point, what exactly happened. So, without further ado, let's strip this watch down, run it through the cleaning machine, and we're gonna rebuild it. So guys, as you can see, this watch is a little bit worse for wear. If you even want to say that it has a crystal left, I would disagree. Probably like 3/4 of a crystal left, which is a bit of a shame really, because as you can see it's had an effect on the dial. So I'm just removing the crystal ring which holds it in place, and then we can see what we're working with underneath. And it's a shame when things like this happen and people leave it. I don't understand why they do, and then just obviously just put it away or whatever. Dial's not that bad. I mean, I'm gonna have a go at basically just trying to clean it up as best as I can. I will only use water on it. I'm not gonna use any chemicals or anything like that. And they said it didn't run, and yep, not running. Giving it some winds, and it does wind, so that's a good thing. I gave it a full wind, but it's just not running at all. So first and foremost, as always, got to remove the hands, and for this I'm just going to use some hand levers with some plastic to protect the dial, and just going to get those off. I really like the case on this one. 14 karat solid gold. It's got a nice little bit of weight to it. Can't go wrong with gold, no sir. So just taking off the seconds hand. I'd say this is probably going to be like late 40s. So as you can hear, there is a lot of noise going on outside. Saturday night, yeah, where people decide to rev up their engines and piss me off. Not fresh, not cool. So that's the hands off, and I'm just going to stick those aside, keep them safe. And this movement comes out of the front. It's completely sealed at the back. There is no way to get in there whatsoever, so the whole movement with the crown and the dial and the winding stem, it's all going to pop out of the front. So I'm just gently coaxing this out with the screwdriver underneath the dial, just to try and get a little bit of leverage, so that I can get it out easily. And surprisingly it comes out, yeah, not too bad. And now we know why it's not working, because there's no balance inside. So either somebody's stolen this or whatever, because this thing is not magically spontaneously combusted. It's not possible, man. It's not fresh, and it's not super nice. No sir. You need that. But as you can see with the case, original Longines case, wasn't sure at first because on the case back it just says 14K and that's it, but nice to see on the inside that it is an original Longines case. Has a nice little bit of weight to it, like I said, so that's nice. The movement's quite small actually when you compare it to the size of the dial, as you can see. So I'm just going to remove the two dial feed screws, and these ones are really small actually. They don't even look like proper screws actually. They're very strange little small things. And the movement doesn't look too bad actually. So I'm wondering if this was some kind of project or something that somebody had, because it doesn't look really bad. I mean, you don't really see it all on camera, but there is some dirt on there, but it doesn't look destroyed, which is a really good thing. And the hour wheel was obviously stuck underneath the dial there. Not a big problem. I mean, considering the position that it's in at the moment. But the attention to detail on the dial, on the case looks really nice. I mean, considering that this is something that 9 out of 10 owners would never ever see, to see this kind of decoration that they put onto these movements, yeah, really nice to see that. And on the dial side as well, which even makes you think, wow, you know. So I just removed the cannon pinion, and now I've flipped the movement over, and I've just removed all of the tension that I've put extra into the watch. So I want to remove that, get that out of the way, and then I can continue stripping this down. So I'm just taking out the winding stem and the crown. And now I'm just going to remove the pallet cock. You know, these movements, I mean, if you look at it, I mean, especially when it's going to be cleaned up, they're really beautiful. I mean, they really are. And like I said, for something that you're not even really seeing, and this isn't even something that most people also wouldn't get to look at. I mean, because a lot of people can just open up the back of their watch if they have a ball or the right tool. But when it comes out of the front, it's not something that people do really at all. So beautiful decoration to see on a movement like this. It's quite a common movement. There's many out there. It's not like particularly rare or anything like that. So thankfully parts are quite easy to get hold of. And I have quite a few myself anyway. This is why as watchmakers you never throw anything away, because you never know. So just having a quick look at the pallets, and they don't look too bad. And I'm just going to pop those to one side. So to my subscribers out there, little message from me. So a couple of weeks ago I sent out a community post, and I'm thinking about doing an AMA, so an Ask Me Anything. I got a few questions from people, so I'm going to be putting something together for one of the videos in the future. So if you get a moment, please by all means feel free to ask me any questions in the community tab, and I'm going to be sure to address those in a video in the future. I think it'll be a lot of fun to do, and we could have quite a good laugh with that. So if you do get a moment, that would be super appreciated if you could write me a question of what's on your mind. Yeah. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, you need to subscribe, because if you subscribe, then you're going to know when all the next HB juicy goodness is going to drop. So that's the ratchet wheel out and the click. And now I'm taking out the crown wheel. This one's held in with 2 screws, so it's not a reverse threaded screw before people start freaking out. No sir, you only get that if it's 1 screw. If there's 2, it's going to be the normal way, because it's not going to be able to unwind itself. So take those both out, and then I can remove the crown wheel and the crown wheel core. And sometimes it's easier just to pick things up with Rodico, seriously. That's like the super putty, mega putty. Just definitely makes life a hell of a lot easier. Definitely. So this video was the first non-live video that I have made with using the new equipment that I got. So I picked up a device called the Yolobox Pro box. Not a big fan of the name, if I'm honest, but this box is serious. It's kind of like a big, if I'll put it bluntly, it's kind of like a big Android tablet. So you don't need a monitor. The actual device itself is a huge screen. And I've been doing my live streams with that, and I've been happy how it's been. So this video I made also by connecting 3 cameras into it as an encoder, and they automatically switch between each other. You can set it at random points, you can set it at sequential, whatever you want basically. And I'll be honest with you, because I've done that and then I've gone into the editing for the video, it has made things so much quicker, and I'm so happy about that. I mean, it is money well spent, seriously. I mean, usually to do one of these restoration videos, it will take me about a day to fully edit it, to create multicam edits, etc, etc, etc. But with this, I edited this video in, I would say, a couple of hours, and now I'm just doing the voiceover. And yeah, man, I could not be happier. Serious game changer for me. It means I can get stuff out a lot more easier, faster, and I'm really happy about that. The only thing is with it, if I did have to grumble, but it's not a game changer, is the maximum it will do is 1080p with 60 frames per second. And to be realistic, yeah, it's okay. It's more than okay. I mean, yeah, a lot of the videos I have done have been in 4K, but it's not a game changer for me. So I'm more than happy with 1080p at 60 frames per second. That is definitely good. So I've removed the train bridge and the barrel bridge, and now I'm removing the train of wheels. Get those all out of the way. I'm inspecting them as well. I will be checking the pivots of these as well under the microscope, because it is an older watch and I am expecting wear. So now I can take out the setting lever screw, and then I will take out the winding pinion and the sliding pinion. And of course we have the barrel as well. We'll remove that. But this movement's not really in that much of a bad condition. I mean, it's very dry in there, and there is some dirt, but compared to some things that I've seen, it's not that bad. It's quite a simple movement as well. I mean, there's no date mechanism on it. It's simply just a hand winder, and it tells the time, and that's it. So there's not that many parts involved. I would say it's also a good practice watch as well. You know, if somebody was starting out and they want to learn, because there's not that much that can go wrong with it. And from an analysis point of view, you can really break yourself down on it and understand what's going on. So I wouldn't say that it's a very challenging movement to work on. I mean, it's not like a chronograph, like a Valjoux 72, for example. Hey, speaking of the Valjoux 72, I'm working on a video of the Valjoux 72 at the moment, a Sherpograph Mark IV, super fresh. That watch is super sexy, man. Makes me moist up, serious. But I have had to pause the video on that, and I got really close to the end. But unfortunately, the parts for the 12-hour register, yeah, they're in a really bad way, and those parts are on order. So I've got to wait to receive those parts before I can finish the video. But 3/4 of it obviously is done, because that's pretty much towards the end of the rebuild. So I'll make sure to let you guys know when I'm going to drop that. So movement's pretty much stripped down. As you can see, it doesn't take that long. And I'm just going to basically strip the barrel down now. So take off the barrel cap, and a lot of grime under there. And in fact, this thing was actually super soggy, super moist, and not in a good way, no sir. So that's the arbor out, and then we can remove the mainspring, and it's pretty old. The condition is not insane, but it's also not brilliant. And I had a bit of a problem with this as well. And my main problem is I could not find the data in regards to what is the size of this mainspring. So against my better judgment, I did actually use the original mainspring with this. So from a balance perspective, and as it happens, as you can see, I do actually have a couple of 22L Longines calibers. Like I said, don't throw anything away because you never know what you can need. And as you can see, I do have a balance. I have a few actually, come to think about it. It's always handy to keep parts because you never know when it's going to come handy. So I will use this balance and I'm going to pop this onto the movement so that I can clean it as well as the movement at the same time. Safest place to keep it is screwed onto the main plate. It really is a good place to keep it, keeps it secure, and this is a special hairspring. It's a Breguet hairspring. You need to really be careful with these because if you bend them or they need adjusting, they're a lot more brittle than the more modern, not mainsprings, hairsprings, sorry. They're a lot more brittle than the more modernized hairsprings. So, for example, if you're having to make adjustments on it, on like a newer I keep on saying mainspring, you can tell I'm tired, not fresh. On newer hairsprings, you can bend and twist them quite a bit in the same place. But you find on these ones, once you bend it once, don't be trying to bend it in the same place again because there's a high probable chance that you will actually just break it and it'll snap. It doesn't mean that you can't straighten it, but you basically just can't do it in exactly the same place that you just previously did it. So now we can start with the rebuild of this. So the capstones on this balance are fixed on the bottom and the top. They're not Incablock, so they're not shock suspended. So you basically need to remove it from the bottom, and then for the top one I did it off camera, and you need to basically do it from underneath. The easiest way to do it is to actually just remove the hairspring, yawn, and break down the balance cock to get to it, which is tedious. And as you can imagine, I much prefer Incablock systems. So just setting that back, just held in with one screw, super nice and easy. And then once that's done, I will just basically remove the balance now, put it aside, keep it safe until the end, and then we can see if this thing will fire up and run. I still can't believe that balance was missing. Makes you wonder. But the guy was super surprised when I told him. Completely oblivious about it. I didn't know, man. And you have to really be careful with this balance as well, because as you can see, it hangs really low. It's definitely springy. So a little bit of 1300 where the setting lever screw will go, and also I will use some 1300 where the barrel will go, and also for the center wheel. I always do it prior because the parts are going to go in anyway, so may as well do it now. So I refit the mainspring already, and it was a tricky one, I'll be honest with you. It was not an easy one to fit. I had a few issues with it, but I tested it and it does work, so that's the good thing. I just hope I get a decent amplitude from it, but we shall find out. A little bit of 1300 on the arbor, and then we can start with the train. So first the escape wheel, and then I'll build the rest of the train up. This one's got the extended pivot on it so that the second hand will go onto it. Beautiful colored wheels. It's so shiny. That's the other thing, like gold in color, you know. I mean, really nice. And then just popping the center wheel in. It's quite a straightforward system. And then there's the two bridges to go on, so the trainer wheel bridge and also the barrel bridge. The barrel bridge on this, it also covers the center wheel as well. So it's quite a big bridge as you see it. I mean, it is pretty big. I mean, you're only really needing to align the center wheel and the arbor, so it's not very difficult. It's just got quite a bit of weight to it. So, like anything when you're dealing with watches, you need to be careful. Just take your time, no rush. And then the train bridge, and then that's going to cover 3 wheels. So again, making sure that these are lined up. But this movement is cleaned up really nice actually. I really like the shine on it. Very glossy. And definitely kind on the eye. So just secure it with some pegwood and then just basically feel for the pivots to go into the jewels, and then you can screw it down afterwards once everything is aligned. Don't fully screw it down until you keep checking it, you know, to make sure that everything's free and flowing, because you don't want to have a broken pivot. It's not fresh. No sir. Unless of course you've got an abundance of 22L spare parts, then it's no problem. So I was checking today and I see that I have like around 728 subscribers. Super fresh, I thought. Not bad considering that I've been running this channel now since I think it was the middle of May. So I'm pretty happy with how it's been going. But I would really appreciate it if people could subscribe to the channel. And the main reason with it is I would really like to hit at least 1,000 subscribers on this so that I can get monetized. And you might ask if you don't know what that is. Basically, YouTube play adverts on my videos. And they play them on my videos already. I know they do because I've checked. I don't get paid for that. No sir. I don't get a dime. YouTube do, but I don't. Because the way they say it is that you need to have at least 1,000 subscribers and you need to have 4,000 watch hours. Now the watch hour thing is no problem. The subscriber thing is a problem. So guys, if you got a heart, if you're liking what I'm doing, I would really appreciate it if you could take the time, take the effort just to hit the subscribe to my channel, and it would be most appreciated. Because I'm growing this and I'm enjoying what I'm doing. For the first time in a long time, I'm enjoying how things are going. So I would most definitely like to continue with that. So the movement's flipped over and now I've added the cannon pinion back on, the minute wheel, the little tiny intermediate wheel as well, and then we can move to the keyless works. So this is the winding pinion and I'm putting on some grease onto this. It's a high friction part obviously. I mean, when you wind in your watch, this is what's moving obviously every time you wind in your watch. So you want to make sure that you grease that sucker good. And then I put in the sliding pinion as well, and then your winding stem goes through both of these, and obviously that's what makes it turn when you turn it, obviously. So now I'm putting in the yoke, and then that will just engage on top of the sliding pinion. And this is obviously for when you're pulling out the crown to set the time, and this is what's moving backwards and forwards. So it's engaging the sliding pinion with the intermediate wheel, which connects to the minute, blah 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 blah, which connects to the cannon pinion and the hour wheel, so that your hands move. I know it sounds super geeky, I'm aware of that, but I must admit, I do like it. And I think it's so bizarre sometimes when I think about like the craftsmanship that's got involved with this, and you know how watches came about and the technology behind it, you know, from back in the day. I think it is just absolute genius. It really is. The precision and with the tools that these guys had back in those days, it's unbelievable. So now I'm just putting on the setting lever spring, and I'm just adding some grease. It's a 9504, I believe it is, that I use. Yeah, 9504. It's like a blue grease. It's a very thick grease, and you're predominantly going to be using that on high friction parts, like setting lever springs, because these things break a lot. I mean, I've lost count the amount of times when I've opened up a watch and that's been broken. You can kind of tell when they've been broken as well. And to be honest, a watch will most of the time still function if the setting lever spring is broken, but you feel it when you pull out the crown to set the time. There won't be that, how do you say it, that friction, so to speak. You won't feel it. It'll feel very loose. And also what you'll find is that when you push the crown back in, it will kind of go ahead of you, so to speak, because the spring is not held under any kind of tension anymore, so it just wants to shoot back in. So now that's screwed in place, just want to give it a quick check and make sure that it's obviously working and everything, which it is. Super nice. Clean off any excess grease. So it's always important to clean up. There's no problem with using a little bit too much. That's not a problem. Just make sure you remove it when you finish the area that you're working on. I always use a little bit too much, but as long as you've cleaned up, it's not a problem. You just need to make sure that you clean up. Clean up your mess, man. So moving back over onto the other side, and now I can just add on the crown wheel core, also the ratchet wheel and the click, etc. So I'm adding a little bit of 9504 just underneath the crown wheel, because that is literally just sits on top of the bridge, so it's constantly touching it. So I add just a little bit on two sides so that it creates just a little bit of lubrication as it turns, basically. And then I add a little bit of 1300 just on the inside of it, so that where the core sits in, because it's obviously spinning on the inside of that as well when you're turning it. And metal on metal will wear, and it'll wear pretty damn quick. So this is why it's important to make sure that you do lubricate your parts. You should always lubricate your parts, boys. So as mentioned before, held in with 2 screws. Screw those suckers in. Tight, but not overly tight. There's no need to go crazy on these. And then obviously after you've installed something, it's always wise just to give a little bit of a functionality test. Make sure that everything's right. Because with watches, it's one of 2 things. If it doesn't feel right, you've done it wrong. End of. Everything should be smooth, it should be fluid, and it should flow. And if you're feeling resistance, it will be wrong. There is no middle ground in regards to that. So I'm just adding in the click spring and making sure you use a little bit of pegwood or a plastic pole just to hold it down, because it's not held down properly yet, so you want to make sure that you support it and so that it doesn't fly across the room, because that's not fresh. And then I just put in the click and then the screw for the click as well, and then that's fine. There's nothing worse than springs going flying. Seriously, I tell you that now. No, sir. So now I can pop on the ratchet wheel. And that lives on top of the arbor, which is a square shape, so you have a square shape hole. It's not rocket science. And that's held down with one screw. You just want to make sure that everything's engaged properly with the teeth, you know, before you screw it down, because if you do, you're going to damage it, and yeah, that's not cool. So just before I fully tighten it, I just wanted to have another little check, make sure everything's all good. And now I can tighten it down properly. And then just give it a quick wind, make sure that everything's free. And it is starting to look more like a completed watch. Oh, my mom called. Believe it or not. So I had to have a little break. So as a third camera, I actually use an iPhone because it shoots in high res. So as a backup camera, I have two main overhead cameras. I use two G7s, two Lumix G7s, and then I use an iPhone, spare iPhone, because you can shoot in 4K on that as well as a side camera, and it's got a wide lens on it. But of course it's connected to me, and she gave me a call this afternoon, bless her, and it popped up on the screen, so I thought, oh, I'm just going to leave that in there. So I gave the pallets some fixer drop treatment so that the oil doesn't run when I add it to the exit jewel. Make sure that I clean off any excess fixer drop off of the pivots, because you want to remove as much friction as possible. And then I can just install the pallets into the watch. I also lubricate the exit jewel as well, but it's something I do off camera because, yeah, you need to do it under a microscope. It's such a small area, and you really don't want to get that oil anywhere but that exit jewel. So just putting in the balance cock, making sure that the pivots are engaged. But even look at that, man, like even the pallet cock, it's such a nice design on this movement. One screw, looks like there's two, but there's only one. But it's such a nice shape. And make sure you do keep checking it before you fully screw this thing down. You want to make sure that the pivots are properly engaged, because they will break really easy. And then you're going to need a new pallet fork set. It's not cool. So that's done, and then finally I can pop in this balance and see if this thing fires up, seeing as it was missing one before. Been extra careful with this one as well, but it went pretty straightforward and it fired up. Doesn't look like it's running too bad, but I will check it out later on, obviously, and see what kind of reading we get from it. But like I've touched on before in other videos, it's always best to fully regulate a watch maybe a day later after you've serviced it. Let all the oil sink in. The watch needs to settle. So yeah, I'm happy with that. We have a running Longines 22L. So a little bit of 1300 to the cannon pinion before I put on the hour wheel, and then we can pop this dial back on. And it's interesting with this as well because I noticed that there wasn't a dial washer. I was like, hey, there's no dial washer, what's going on? I thought, let me check my 22L box of tricks. But I didn't find any dial washers in there as well. So I was then brought to the conclusion of, okay, maybe this model didn't actually use a dial washer, because I find it a little bit strange that the other two movements that I have, they also don't have dial washers. So I'm just assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, that it doesn't have one. So now I'm just putting in these super tiny dial feed screws. I mean, you don't even really see them on camera, but they're really small actually. You know what's weird? They're really small, but I forgot to mention, but the screws that hold down the bridges, man, they're like double the length of usually what I see. They're so long. It's not an original crown, I don't believe. I don't have any Longines crowns, and the person wasn't too bothered anyway, so I thought okay. They also told me not to mess with the case. I thought okay, with it being gold. Personally, I think it could do with being polished up, but yeah, it is what it is. So that's the little sub-second hand being put on, and like I said, that just lives on that extended pivot. You need to be careful with this because it is a really thin pivot, so when pressing it down, just be careful. And then I can put on the hour and the minute hands, and these are really straightforward. I mean, it's just two hands. Because there's no date, you can put the hour hand on wherever you want and then just adjust it to 12 later. So just check it, make sure that it's not touching the seconds hand, because that will stop the watch, no question at all, it will stop it, and that sucks. So I'm just checking it, making sure that it's not, which is cool. Align it up to 12 o'clock and then you can put on the minute hand. So I'm making sure that this is bang on 12 o'clock, and then I'm using my Horotech hand pressing tool. I've mentioned this one before, I really love this tool, man. I think it was about 130 euros for the 3-punch, and it's just brilliant. The accuracy is perfect, bang straight, no messing around, much better than any of those hand tools that you can use to put hands on. I couldn't recommend it enough. So that's the hands on. So getting towards the end, and we need to put a new crystal on, obviously, because that other one is completely mashed. So I'm just measuring up. I always have a problem with this. I always measure, and then I always find that the measurement that I have is just not the size of the crystal that I need. This has happened a few times. So this is, what's this saying, like 29.8. What did I get out in the end? I can't remember. I think it's 30. It's not far off, but I think I did try a 29.8 and it was just too small. So just blowing off any excess dust that's on these crystals. They're old crystals. They're no old stock, obviously. I have lots of them. I got them in a lot. But they all, even though they're in paper, they always have dust on them. So you do need to give them a blow and just get anything off. New crystal goes on nice. Went for something a little bit more high dome. I have flat ones as well, but I felt like this just gave the watch a bit more, because it's quite a small watch. It's like 33.5 millimeter, and I felt it just gave it a little bit more presence. What do you guys think about that? So now I can pop the movement back into the case. Super nice because I don't have to take the crown off. I just literally just pull it to the hand setting position, and then I can just pop it straight into the case and just press it in. No movement, holder screws, nothing. It literally just sits in snug. Kinda snug. And then just give it a quick once over with some Rodico, because I definitely saw my thumb touch that. Not cool. And then now that the crystal is put into the ring, I can pop this back on to the watch and complete it. But guys, seriously, if you like what I'm doing, please hit a like on this video. If you've got anything that you want to add in the comments, feel free to leave a comment below. It would be most appreciated. And subscribe to the Horology Biology channel so that you can get informed about when the next goodness is going to drop. So just checking it out on the Timergraph, see what it is unregulated. I have opened it back up because I want to just give it a quick check. And it's not that bad. I mean, the amplitude actually is a lot better than I was expecting, to be honest. I'm happy with 256, well, 262. It's not too bad. As I said, I will obviously check this out in a couple of days. I always do this anyway, just to make sure that everything is settled. All the oils have sunken in and the watch has basically just found its feet. Sounds weird, but it's really how it is. So there we have it, guys, the Longines 14 karat gold dress watch. New crystal dial actually doesn't look too bad at all looking at it like this. It's cleaned up pretty good, it's running pretty good, and I'm pretty sure the person is going to like it even more with a balance inside. Super fresh, super nice. Okay guys, until next time,